EJ Colson and Evans Chuba, one of those two. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. We're getting reps with the first team. Zach, this is interesting because you and I both predicted, and most other people did as well, that Malachi Singleton, the Arkansas transfer, would be the one who would win the starting job at Purdue. Now, Purdue is pretty well into their spring practices. They started about almost a week ago. I think they are 6 practices in at this point. So it's getting pretty far into spring practice for them. Tom did say that he has EJ Colson as his first team on the depth chart right now, followed by Evans Chuba. Again, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. And then Malachi Singleton very close behind. So he didn't say that either one of these two were kind of, far and away the leader or anything like that. He still did say it's very close, but it's interesting considering what many people were predicting as Malachi Singleton to be the starter. What do you make of this, Zach?
I think whenever you have guys who are outperforming the projected starter, and they're both freshmen, I think that's actually a really good sign for Purdue. Mm-hmm. Like EJ Colson, he was at UCF, didn't do a lot, but he's 6'1", 215. He has some mobility. He's a 3-star prospect coming out of college. Evans Chuba transferring in as well from Washington State. Again, neither of these guys have a ton of experience, so I think they'd be redshirt freshmen.
Yes.
But I think it's a good thing for Purdue that you have guys outperforming the projected starter.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Malachi Singleton had one game, I think it was, at Arkansas, and he performed very well. So that's kind of what people are mostly basing this on. But I mean, Evans Chuba was always kind of my dark horse to possibly win the job because of how talented John Mater. I'm terrible with last names. Mateer. With how good he was, maybe Evans Chuba was just also good. He just couldn't see the field because of Mateer and how good he was. So, I mean, to me, this always seemed like kind of a crapshoot with who would win the job here. If anybody was guessing, and it felt like it was good that most people were guessing Singleton. But as you said, Colson coming from UCF, Chuba coming from Washington State, and Singleton coming from Arkansas, none of these guys really have all that much more experience than the other ones, and they're all pretty much dual threat guys as well. Yeah. So we're going to see who Barry Odom chooses. I just hope that whoever Barry Odom chooses, he chooses them, he sticks with them, and he gets to the end of the year. Even if he's not anything, spectacular, choose your guy, go with your guy till the end of the year. You don't want a Michigan situation where you start, 3 or 4 different, was it 4? I know they started three different quarterbacks in the season.
Yeah. So no, I think it's, especially with young quarterbacks, let them ride it out, get the experience, get them ready.
For sure. All right, moving on to our next one. We have another quarterback, and John will love this. Fernando Mendoza is really impressing at Indiana right now. Now, obviously, Indiana was going to be very excited about their quarterback coming in. Everybody's very impressed with him, very excited. But there have been a number of balls that he's thrown that have been incredibly accurate down the field. Now, most of this is just shorts and t-shirt type of play. Not much is actually being done in pads yet for them. I think they have put pads in at practice by now, but a lot of this is coming from shorts and t-shirts type of throws and stuff. But still, it's good for Fernando Mendoza to come in, showcase the arm, show that he does have what it takes there for that. And then also Kirk Cignetti talking about how he is further along than they thought with the concepts and stuff, because they're figuring out that Cal ran many of the same concepts, just a little bit of different wordage for what they're doing. But overall, this is good for Fernando Mendoza. This is good for Indiana. Indiana fans have a lot to be excited about. I still am looking for the pocket presence more than anything, right? That was always kind of my question about Mendoza. But overall, you are getting what you thought you were going to get out of Mendoza being solidified, and that's a good feeling. Correct, Zach?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think the hope, and we've been saying this, like Curtis Rourke was a really good quarterback for Indiana last year, but he was not a high ceiling guy. He was a high floor guy. Mm-hmm. but he wasn't a high ceiling where he could really elevate you to against teams like Ohio State, like Notre Dame. Even against Michigan, he struggled. Mendoza has the talent to take them over to maybe some upset wins against teams that have higher competition or better competition. And the fact that he's not just showing the talent, the arm talent, but also the potential leadership capabilities. Again, it's t-shirts and shorts. You don't win games in t-shirts and shorts.
Correct.
But I think if you are an Indiana fan or just a Big Ten fan, you're looking at Indiana. It's like, maybe this is not a 1-year wonder. Maybe this is going to be a continued march for Indiana to really be relevant at the top of the conference.
Yeah, I mean, they were relevant last year. You know, a lot of people kind of blame that on the ease of the schedule. I felt like there was more than that. I felt like they took care of business against teams that, you know, not even teams that have an easy schedule take care of business against. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as Mendoza doesn't tear his ACL before the season starts, like, way better, right? Like I thought Curtis Rourke was really good last year, but apparently he tore his ACL at some point, either before the season or during the season. I can't remember which, and not like later on in the season. I think there was speculation that it happened against Ohio State, but it was there as well. So definitely some stuff to work out there. But I think if you're an Indiana fan, you're very excited about Fernando Mendoza. Paul, thank you for asking about Penn State. Penn State's spring practices have not started yet, so we don't have them in the spring intel portion. However, we will get to them when we do the trap game stuff. I believe they are in the second half of the trap games segment. So we will get to Penn State. It will just be later on in the show.
Yeah, and I'm hoping at some point to get a couple of guys that I know who know Penn State well to come on and talk more about Penn State moving forward.
Yeah. Yep. Zack lives in Pennsylvania, so don't you worry. Zack's got plenty of Penn State talk to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got plenty of friends to do it with as well. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's see our next one here. All right, so we're getting to Ohio State now. Zack, Ohio State, their transfer portal offensive tackles they got, Phillip Daniels and Ethan Onianwa, they were not starting with the first team when spring practice first opened up on Monday. This was a little bit of a shock to some people, you know, having some concern. Oh, maybe are they not as good as we thought? Guard last year, Austin Siereveld was starting at left tackle, and then they had the presumed backup right tackle, Ian Moore, starting at right tackle. Threw Ohio State fans off guard a little bit. Zack, do you think Ohio State fans should be concerned? Do you think this is just kind of the process of working transfers in? What do you think?
Fire Ryan Day. The program is no, it's good. I think
they didn't lose to Michigan yet. Okay, I'm just kidding. We'll get to that. Sorry, if they lose to Michigan again. Don't worry.
We're preparing for the last Saturday in November. I think this is par for the course. You know, they always have people get their black stripe removed to be official Buckeyes. I don't think it's anything. And honestly, they need depth at the tackle position. And so if you're going to have this, you want other guys to step up at tackle, even if Onianwa, is it Okinawa or Onianwa? Onianwa.
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 Yeah.
I was wrong on
Look
every
at me
account.
giving advice on how to pronounce names. Look at me.
Onianwa.
That's not the normal case scenario.
You did it. Onianwa and Daniels. We should expect them to start. Ian Moore, I think, has an outside shot over Daniels, maybe, but Onianwa is going to start. Like, that is a definite. Like, he might be one of the best tackles in the country. So.
Yeah, and Ryan Day did say that I think on the roster listing he was up over 350 pounds, and Ryan Day did say that they wanted him to slim that down a little bit. So part of this could just be, you know, extra motivation for, you know, hey, you know, get the weight down, do that kind of stuff. But overall, like you're correct. This is what they do with transfers, freshmen. They get a black stripe. It's a tradition at Ohio State ever since the previous head coach Urban Meyer instilled there. So this is just kind of what they do. Will Howard Howard wasn't the starter the very first time either. Yes, Billy, you were exactly correct. They always give priority to returning players, kind of make you earn your spot, right? Nobody wants to come in and just have their spot given to them. Earn it. Same thing will happen with Ohio State or with Will Howard at Ohio State last year.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to believe that, probably after a week, maybe a week and a half, you'll see or hear about Onianwa being the starter there. Anything else on that, Zach?
Nope. I think we nailed it.
All right, nailed it. Good. All right, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator for Oregon, he vows to give Kenyon Sadiq more touches in 2025. A lot of good information out there coming about Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. I think Oregon fans were already very excited about him, but you hear a lot of, very good reviews from Stein, from Dan Lanning who said a few things. Like, there's just a lot of good information out there about Kenyon Sadiq and what he is bringing to this Oregon team. Almost sounds like he could be a leader for this Oregon team this year with how he's been, bringing himself into practice and everything else. So, I mean, if you're an Oregon fan, you got to love news like this, correct, Zach?
Yeah, and I think you heard the hype a year ago. I mean, he had a Big Ten championship game, right? And now he's taken over for Terrence Ferguson, who is, I think, one of the underrated tight ends one of the more underrated tight ends in the country, right? I think the stat that you kept pushing out last year, the most yards after catch of any tight end, right? So Sadiq might be more athletic. I don't think it's a might. I think he is. And you put him in that role, blocking, getting him in space to catch, and the fact that they're replacing several pass catchers as well. I know DeCarrion Moore, he's coming in. People are saying he's going to be the next Jeremiah Smith. He's not, but he's going to be really good. But you need a guy who's going to take some of the volume. And I think Sadiq is that guy. And so, I mean, I don't think it's breaking news. Like, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And the reports that we're getting out there that he put on as much as 15 pounds in the offseason, he's still running the same speed, he still has the same athleticism. Will Stein went as far to say Kenyon Sadiq is the best is one of the best players in the country. I'm glad we've got him back. Very high praise coming from the offensive coordinator there, and definitely sounds like he's going to be a focal point of this offense, which is good because I felt like Terrence Ferguson was a bit underutilized last year. Now, after Tez Johnson got hurt, I felt like, he got utilized more after that, and that was good. But overall, I mean, they had a lot of playmakers on their offense last year, so it wasn't like he was not being thrown the ball because, and it was like somebody wasn't as good of him. There was a lot of playmakers on the offense last year.
Yeah. Do you think Sadiq could potentially be in the running for the Mackey Award next year?
Maybe. I mean, a lot of these things don't depend so much on talent level just because they don't look at that as much. It does depend up more on like production and stuff like that. And that's my question is what is this Oregon offense going to look like? Is it going to be, passing the ball downfield, kind of, moving the ball downfield a little bit at a time? Are they going to get Kenyon Sadiq in space, let his athleticism kind of gain yards after the catch like they did with Terrence Ferguson? Or they got the really, really good transfers from Tulane, Makai Hughes coming in. Is this going to be more of a ground game? Is he going to split time with Whitmore? One of those two. I apologize. I forget their backup running back's name. But, what's this going to look like? I think if they really prioritize Sadiq in the offense, he can possibly win that award. But with so many playmakers and everything, it's just one of those awards that unless you have Jeremiah Smith hype, it's really difficult to win one of those awards,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
What do you think? You think he could?
I think if he's the focal point, I think the way they want to attack, I think they could get him the numbers. But I wonder if maybe in the first half of the season he gets the hype and he gets the numbers, but then as some of those younger receivers get more involved, I think he probably loses some steam. That'd be my guess. But like he's got time to accumulate numbers in the first 5 games. And then they have a bye, and I think at that point you probably see Moore get more involved, and I do think, by the way, I think Decorian Moore is going to be really, really good. It's just
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, people are like saying he's like Jeremiah Smith 2.0. And I'm like, guys, this is not me being a homer. Jeremiah Smith's one of one. Like if I hear another guy,
well, it's important to set proper expectations for these freshmen as well.
Yeah.
Right. We set too high of expectations for them, and then they're going to come in. They're not going to meet those expectations more often than not, and then fans are going to be upset with them and be down on them. It's a lot of what happened to Kyle McCord at Ohio State. Now, he was not a freshman, but Kyle McCord, he was not a bad quarterback. Like, Ohio State fans, myself included at times, made him out to look like a really bad quarterback. Truth was, he wasn't a bad quarterback. He's going to get drafted in the NFL. Like, he's a good quarterback. He just was not the quarterback that Ohio State needed, and Ohio State had just had 3 straight first-round pick quarterbacks. So when Kyle McCord comes in, doesn't look like a first-round pick quarterback right away, Ohio State fans are obviously, wishing for a little bit more, and, losing that, 3rd straight game to Michigan on an interception by him didn't really help his case either.
Right.
So,
yeah.
The Billy Tuesday is saying Max Clare better. Max Clare is the tight end that Ohio State got. Max Clare older. We haven't heard much about Max Clare. I guess they've only had 1 practice, but I'm looking forward to hear about Max Clare. Max Clare, I think, is going to be a good weapon for Ohio State this year. Could be one of the best weapons they've had at tight end in a long time. Yeah.
Although, again, he's got a Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis problem. Like, I think Sadiq will probably have better numbers than Max Clare. Not because Max Clare is underutilized, but he's not going to be the focal point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think it's going to be interesting too, because Penn State's going to have a really good tight end this year with Luke Reynolds as well.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, we're going to see a lot of good tight end play this year in the Big Ten, which is really, really fun to see. So, and again, like we said with Jeremiah Smith and Decorian Moore, I'm not putting the Tyler Warren tag on Luke Reynolds to say, like, he has to be this good. Like, he can be very good, but I'm not going to put that tag on him for him to be his very first year starting, because it's just, if he doesn't meet those expectations, everybody tears him down,
Yeah.
So. Yeah. All right. Our last one here, Wisconsin, Ohio State transfer, Jayden Ballard is becoming a key transfer for Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is implementing a lot of their stuff so far in their spring practice. They, like Purdue, started a little bit earlier than everybody else, but he's looking like the primary deep threat for this team. I know for Ohio State fans, they always kind of wondered if he would ever turn into that for Ohio State. He never really did. He leaves. He goes up to Wisconsin, meets up with new quarterback there, Billy Edwards. And for Wisconsin, this is another good player they could have at wide receiver. Wisconsin did not have the best wide receivers last year. They had some guys that could make some plays here and there. Kakamunga did well. Vinny Anthony did a good job as a deep threat as well at times. But if you're Wisconsin, with how much you're probably going to be running the ball and stuff like that, you're going to want to make those safeties, stay back. And so you need those deep threats out there on the field consistently. So what is that going to look like for Jayden Ballard? Is he going to be a good blocker? Is he going to add to that running game as well? But as far as I'm concerned, this is great news for Wisconsin. What are your transfers coming in? You get the tight end coming in. A lot of buzz about him looking good as well. This is great news for Wisconsin. Correct, Zack?
Yeah, and great news for Jayden Ballard, because he bet on himself. And, I think Ohio State fans were often wondering why he never hit. I think the answer is, look at who was ahead of him. And I think, unlike most programs, Ohio State's kind of gotten into this rhythm where now all of their receivers are multifaceted players. And so Jeremiah Smith is a deep threat. Whereas typically you look at a 6'3", 215-pound receiver and you're like, he's more of a possession guy. That's not Jeremiah Smith. That's not Carnell Tate, right? He's 6'1", 200 pounds, but he's able to fly past. And so they haven't needed just a deep threat guy. And so that kind of left Jayden Ballard, I think. It's like, well, okay, we don't need you, because all these guys can do what you're doing. Wisconsin is not that type of program right now. And quite frankly, almost nobody is that way. Like, everybody else will take
it's like Oregon and Ohio State, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. So, like, to have a solidified deep threat, which we knew Jayden Ballard could do, is huge because he's got track speed, right? Like, he's gonna run I would imagine a 4.4 under 40.
Possibly
And
4.3. Yeah.
yeah, and I think what he did show at Ohio State is he could track the ball fairly well. And so the fact that they have a guy that can take the top off the defense is huge, because what it does is it loosens up running lanes for the running backs, loosens up things for the tight ends and slot receivers, which is they just have not had that over the past several years. And so I think it's a big deal if Ballard can be that for them.
Yeah, I mean, if Ballard can be that for them, you are going to develop your tight end for kind of that short game for you. You're going to develop your quarterback to have the run game, which Billy Edwards we knew had. You're going to develop your running back to be featured in that running game, and then Ballard be the one kind of running down the field, making that defense stay honest, stretching them every single play. I'm looking for the play action here, right? You know, lull the defense to sleep a little bit, and then just boom, hit him over the top with Jayden Ballard in. And the most important thing is that Jayden Ballard not just be a deep threat, but he's a guy who can stay on the field every single down. So that way the defense doesn't know, oh, okay, Jayden Ballard in here. We're going to pay attention to him and know that he's going deep on this one. No, let him be in there, let him run block, do all those other things as well. So good news for Jayden Ballard, good news for Wisconsin. Looking forward to seeing that. Look at us. We said some good news about Wisconsin, Zach. We've been accused of not being the best good newsers for Wisconsin, but here we are.
Yeah. There is we have been down on Wisconsin, but there is a reality that if they can actually be more multifaceted on offense, like, they get to a bowl game because of that, which is hard to believe with their schedule. But if you look at some of the teams they're playing, some of them are susceptible to the deep ball and to teams that are more athletic. And not that Wisconsin has athleticism all over the field, but to have a guy who can take the top off, it gives them hope against other teams that I don't know if I would have said they have hope to beat or to stay close. So I think this is it really is big.
It's another dynamic to the offense. Add another dynamic to the offense, it immediately helps everything else get better. So love it.